Disney celebrates 100 years this year, and as of January 27th, 2023, the celebration kicks off. And in honor of this, I'm ranking all 7 Disney CEOs from the worst to the best. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Disney Pasture. I'm your host Tim, and it's crazy to think that we are alive today for the 100th anniversary of the Walt Disney Company. What's even crazier though, there's only been 7 CEOs in that time. The CEO title for Disney actually started all the way back in 1971. Let's dive in. We're ranking the worst to the best, all 7 Disney CEOs. Hope you guys are ready, because let's dive right in to this list. Coming in last place is Ron Miller. But let me explain why Ron Miller is currently the worst Disney CEO. To kick off and actually, be a little nice to him, he did help start Touchstone, which created a lot of 90s Disney movies, stuff like Sister Act, the Ernest movies, 3 Men and a Baby. You have stuff like Splash, that was the first Touchstone movie, more adult-centered Disney content. But the reason why he's the worst is he nearly killed Disney.
What'd you do?
Yeah. See, back during his time, Disney was in a okay state. I mean, they had a lot of mehness. It's the best way to put it. The parks were doing pretty decent. The movies were doing not that well, if I'm being honest. And on top of that, Disney stock was doing absolutely horrible. In fact, there was one guy who was looking to buy the majority shares of the company. Disney later, spent a ton of money to get rid of him. But ultimately, it just was not good for Disney. This almost killed Disney. And granted, as much as we may like or dislike a bunch of other Disney CEOs, no one has come close to almost being the destruction of Disney. So because of that, he's the worst. Coming in at number 6 is, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Bob Chapek.
Jafar, he's our man if he can't do it. Right!
Without a doubt, he had a very short tenure, but a very difficult one. Granted, yes, if we want to give him the benefit of the doubt, he did help Disney in going into this new era of post-pandemic and streaming and all this other stuff. But even with all that, there was a lot of frustration with Disney between stuff of messing up relationships with actors, to the parks being in somewhat of disarray, to Disney fans and people unhappy, to the board being unhappy, which is what led to his firing.
You're fired!
I mean, a whole bunch of stuff that we don't even know fully caused this man to end up at the number 6 spot. He didn't really do a good job. Sure, he could very well run another company, something like Target or GameStop, that has much more of a, hey, let's cut costs and boost profits sort of mindset, but that does not work with Disney and the company that it is. Coming in next is Don Tatum, the successor after Roy O. Disney. Don Tatum comes from the finance department, and he's kind of, the right-hand man, so to speak, for Roy Disney at the time. Now, why is he this low? He really didn't do anything terrible, if I'm being honest. I mean, he did help usher Walt Disney World into, continuing to improve and continuing to find its footing in sort of the theme park era. But he got Disney stuck in the what would Walt do mindset. In fact, if we remember the Imagineering story, where Bob Gurr said he just kind of felt a little disappointment because the people at the top were like, all right, what's the next big project? What you all got? Rather than Walt giving them directions. Yeah, he was kind of talking about Tatum a little bit. That's not to say that Tatum did bad, but he didn't do super duper great either.
Something good, something bad, bit of both.
I mean, he just kind of did okay. And sometimes, especially after your two founding members pass away within, 5 to 10 years, yeah, I think okay is probably a decent start. Coming in next, at the number 4 spot, is Card Walker. Now, what did Card Walker do well? Well, if you're a fan of Epcot or Tokyo Disneyland, or you love the Disney Channel, he's kind of to thank for that. He was influential in leading Disney to its first international park with, of course, Tokyo Disneyland, which turned out to be a great partnership as it's regarded as arguably the best Disney park resort. Then, of course, for all my Walt Disney World people, Epcot Center, the gloriousness that was 80s Epcot, that was him. He led Disney into creating that project. And of course, if you enjoy High School Musical, Good Luck Charlie, Wizards of Waverly Place, any of those things, Sweet Life with Zack and Cody, all those stuff, you have him to thank. Because without that, you wouldn't see all those things. Oh, and Descendants too. Forgot about that one. And while yeah, he did a lot of good, he still was stuck in the what would Walt do mindset. In fact, when he was approached about potentially doing a overseas park, he was extremely hesitant about it. Let's move on to number 3. Coming in at the number 3 spot is our current CEO, again, Bob Iger. Now you may be wondering why he's so low, and I'll get to that here in a second. Iger's done a lot of good for Disney. While you may have opinions or such about him, he of course bought Pixar, maybe a little too late, but Pixar's now under Disney, and then Marvel and Lucasfilm and some of those other things that help increase the Disney brand, but also just, I think they've done, for the most part, a good job with all of those. Now, take it or leave it on some of the, fine tunings or some of the fine moments of those. I'm looking at you, the Star Wars sequels.
Oh, you look so stupid.
But for the most part, they've been incredibly successful under the Disney umbrella, and that's a large part to do with Iger. Plus, on top of that, the fact that he helped bring back, DCA to a new and improved glory, to Star Wars Land and Toy Story and a bunch of other, rejuvenation to the parks was done under Iger's tenure. And that's a huge, really huge, good thing. Seriously, I am very thankful for a lot of the stuff we've gotten under Iger's watch. And so, yeah, that's why he's at number 3 for the good stuff. However, they don't come with a lot of debt. And particularly, I'm looking at the 20th Century Fox deal. Now, don't get me wrong, this could potentially be good in the long run. But it's going to be a long road ahead. Disney is in massive debt because of this acquisition, and there are a few things that helped it out a little bit. In saying that, I do recognize that, yeah, this is a very tricky spot for Disney. He is very IP hungry, Iger is. And that sometimes can lead to debt, which is a massive problem, and no one likes debt. Coming in at number 2 is Roy O. Disney. Fun fact, he is the first Disney CEO. In case you're wondering, Walt was president of Disney. He was never the CEO. So that's why he's not included on this list. Otherwise, he would be for sure number 1. I mean, come on, it's Walt. But the reason why Roy is at number 2 is, 1, he helped co-found Disney, so that's just immediately, you're getting in the top 3 with that. Plus, on top of that, just a lot of what he did was really, really good. He brought to us Walt Disney World, so that's a huge part of that. But a lot of what he did is working alongside his brother to help manage sort of the finances so that a lot of the dreams Walt had could come true. A lot of it is because of Roy's work, and that needs to be recognized. The partnership between Walt and Roy is something that we've not seen in Disney. We've seen stuff like it, which we'll touch on that here in a second, but nothing has come close. And I don't think anything will come close. So yeah, that's why Roy's at number 2. And no, in case you're wondering, I don't think he did anything wrong. And before we get to number 1, which I know a lot of you are antsy for, let me know in the comments down below, who is your favorite Disney CEO? But without further ado, let's get to the number 1 spot. Coming in at number 1 is Michael Eisner. Now, whether this is a surprise or not, there's a reason why he's at number 1. See, when Ron Miller left Disney, Disney was in shambles, hence why he's at number 7. But what Eisner and his partner Wells did with Disney was take it to an entirely new level. See, when Eisner and Wells were in this sort of partnership, they grew Disney in all facets. The parks were in a much better state amongst Eisner and Wells. They even added new things as well, such as Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom to Walt Disney World, as well as multitude of resorts and the water parks as well. On top of that, they added, of course, DCA. Well, it was Eisner at the time. Wells had passed away before that happened. But Eisner added Disney California Adventure, which, while it didn't open as great as it definitely should have been, it allowed Disney to use that park to become what it is today. Who can forget about the Disney Renaissance? They revolutionized Disney animation to make them the powerhouse, including almost winning Best Picture with Beauty and the Beast. They literally took Disney to another level, and if it wasn't for them, Disney would not be where it is today. And yeah, sure, Eisner gets a bad rep, but between him and Wells, this was the best partnership we've seen since Walt and Roy. A lot of what Iger did in helping Disney propel itself into the blockbuster #1 media conglomerate of today, a lot of it is done through the foundations that was set by Eisner. Of course, there are some bad things that happened. I mean, Euro Disney was not the success it is today. In fact, it was a massive flop. On top of that, you had stuff like Disney's America, which sounded like a decent idea on paper, but to try to execute it didn't work out so well, especially with public backlash and things of that sort. But overall, Disney under Eisner, and particularly Eisner and Wells, was a great partnership. And that's it. That wraps up the 7 CEOs of the Walt Disney Company. Let me know in the comments below, who is your favorite Disney CEO, whether you grew up with them or you just enjoy them for the things they brought to the Disney Company. I'd love to hear it. And while you're down there, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this one. And if you enjoyed this one, be sure to give a big thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. It helps me know what type of content you guys want to see here in the future. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And I'm so glad you're here. I hope you have an amazing, fantastic day. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye.